The rescue in the ruins. The sky over Helios 9 burned like spilled blood. Commander Ren Kovac squinted through the smoke, his rebreather mask hissing with each labored breath as he picked his way through the devastation. The Meridian's attack had been swift and merciless, reducing the once thriving colony to little more than ash and broken dreams. "Command, this is Kovac," he rasped into his comm unit. "Sector 7 is clear. No survivors detected." He paused, waiting for the static to clear. "Recommend moving to Sector 8 before nightfall." "Negative, Commander," came the clipped response. "Extraction incoming. Mission parameters have changed. Return to Rendezvous Point Alpha." Ren frowned beneath his mask. "With respect, sir, we haven't completed the sweep. There could still be." "That's an order, Commander. The Meridian fleet is returning. We're pulling everyone out." The comm went silent, leaving Ren alone with the crackling fires and distant rumble of collapsing structures. He checked his wrist display, 30 minutes to extraction. His gaze drifted toward the eastern district, Sector 8, where the governor's compound stood partially intact. "Damn it all," he muttered, making his decision. He wouldn't leave until he was certain. The journey to the compound was treacherous. Twice he had to dive for cover as orbital debris crashed through the atmosphere, striking the ground with thunderous impact. His scanner beeped continuously, measuring radiation levels and atmospheric toxins, both hovering just below lethal thresholds. The compound's gates hung from twisted hinges, the ornate metal melted in places from energy weapon impacts. Ren moved cautiously through the courtyard, pulse rifle raised. 25 minutes to extraction. It was in the central atrium that he heard it, a faint shuffling sound, almost imperceptible beneath the groan of stressed metal. Ren froze, enhancing his audio receptors. There it was again. Coming from beneath a collapsed section of ceiling. "Hello?" he called, approaching slowly. "Coalition forces. I'm here to help." A whimper answered him, small and frightened. Ren holstered his weapon and began clearing debris, tossing aside twisted metal and shattered marble. She was curled in a protective ball, her luminescent skin dulled with soot and fear. Not human, one of the Astrian refugees who had settled on Helios 9 after their homeworld's destruction. The girl couldn't have been more than 8 or 9 in human years, though with Astrians it was hard to tell. Her eyes, pupilless and the color of distant nebulae, widened as Ren removed his mask to offer a reassuring smile. "It's okay," he said softly. "I'm not going to hurt you. What's your name?" The girl blinked, silver tears cutting clean trails down her dirty face. "Lyra," she whispered. "Lyra Knox Vale." "Well, Lyra Knox Vale, I'm Commander Ren Kovac. And I'm going to get you out of here." Her small hand reached for his, revealing a curious pendant clutched tightly, a crystalline starburst that pulsed with inner light. "My mother told me to protect this," she said, her voice strengthening slightly. "She said our future depends on it." Ren nodded seriously. "Then we'll protect it together." He checked his display. 20 minutes to extraction. "Can you walk?" Lyra tried to stand, only to collapse with a cry of pain. Her right leg was badly injured, a deep gash running from knee to ankle. "Change of plans," Ren said, scooping her up carefully. "We're going for a ride." He secured her against his chest, replacing his mask before heading back into the toxic air outside. The extraction point was 5 kilometers away, a challenging trek even without carrying a child. "Why did they attack us?" Lyra asked as they moved through the ruined streets. "We never hurt anyone." Ren winced, unsure how to explain interstellar politics to a traumatized child. "The Meridian Collective believes your people have something they want," he said carefully. "Something powerful." Lyra's hand tightened around her pendant. "The Starlight Key," she whispered. "The what?" Before she could answer, a piercing shriek cut through the air. Ren looked up to see 3 Meridian scout ships descending through the clouds. Hold tight, he ordered, breaking into a run. They ducked into an abandoned transit station as energy blasts scorched the ground behind them. 15 minutes to extraction. The ship circled overhead, searchlights sweeping the ruins. "They're looking for me," Lyra said, her voice eerily calm for a child in danger. "For what I carry." Ren set her down behind a collapsed pillar. "Stay here. Don't move." He crept to the station entrance, assessing the situation. The ships were moving in a search pattern, but hadn't spotted them yet. His extraction vessel would be arriving soon, but if these scouts detected it, they'd call in the entire Meridian fleet. His comm crackled. "Commander Kovac, where the hell are you? Extraction arriving in 12 minutes. Complications," Ren replied tersely. "I've got a survivor, and we've got Meridian scouts overhead." A pause, then, "Understood. Rerouting to secondary extraction point. Can you make it?" Ren checked his map. The secondary point was closer, but offered no cover, they'd be exposed during boarding. "We'll make it," he said, not feeling nearly as confident as he sounded. He returned to Lyra, who was examining her wound with detached curiosity. "We need to move again," he told her. "Different pickup spot." She nodded, reaching for him with complete trust. Something twisted in Ren's chest, something he couldn't afford to examine right now. They moved through maintenance tunnels beneath the city, Ren's tactical visor guiding them through the darkness. Behind them, explosions rocked the surface as the Meridian ships destroyed anything that might hide survivors. "My family," Lyra said suddenly. "Did you find anyone else?" Ren hesitated, then shook his head. "I'm sorry, Lyra." She didn't cry. Instead, a strange calm settled over her features, making her appear far older than her years. "Then I am the last," she whispered. "The last of the royal line." "Royal line?" Ren asked, surprised. "My mother was regent protector," Lyra explained, as if stating that water was wet. "Until our new home could be established, where I would take my place as queen." Ren nearly stumbled. He was carrying royalty. The Coalition intelligence briefings had mentioned nothing about Astrian royalty on Helios 9. 5 minutes to extraction. They emerged from the tunnels near a clearing that had once been a public garden. Now it was little more than scorched earth. The secondary extraction point. The Meridian ships had moved to the western sector, but would return soon. Ren activated his emergency beacon and crouched down to check Lyra's wound. It had stopped bleeding, but needed proper medical attention. "When we get on the ship," he instructed, "you stay quiet about who you are. About your pendant. About everything. Do you understand?" Lyra frowned. "You want me to lie?" "I want you to survive," Ren replied. "There are people who would use you, if they knew." "Like the Coalition?" she asked, unervingly perceptive. Ren hesitated. "Sometimes even the good guys make bad choices when they're afraid." The roar of engines announced their extraction vessel's arrival. A sleek, matte black ship descended through the clouds, landing gear deploying silently. "Now!" Ren urged, lifting Lyra again and sprinting toward the ship. They were halfway there when the first energy blast struck nearby, sending them tumbling to the ground. The Meridian scouts had returned. Ren covered Lyra with his body as earth and debris rained down around them. "Go!" he shouted, pushing her toward the ship. "Run!" She stumbled forward, clutching her pendant. The extraction vessel's ramp extended, a Coalition soldier appearing with covering fire. Another blast hit closer. Ren felt searing pain across his back as his armor partially failed. He staggered but kept moving, pushing Lyra ahead of him. "Commander," the soldier at the ramp called, firing continuously at the circling scouts. With a final surge of strength, Ren lifted Lyra and practically threw her onto the ramp. "Go," he ordered the soldier. "Take off." "Not without you, sir." Ren dragged himself onto the ramp as it began to close, energy blasts peppering the ship's shields. The vessel lurched, engines engaging at full thrust. Inside, medics immediately surrounded them. Ren waved them toward Lyra. The girl first, he gasped, collapsing against a bulkhead. Through the haze of pain, he watched as they treated her injury. She kept her eyes on him, small fingers still clutching the mysterious pendant. "You'll be safe now," he promised her. Lyra shook her head slightly, wisdom beyond her years shining in her otherworldly eyes. "None of us are safe," she whispered. "Not until I fulfill my destiny." As the ship broke atmosphere, leaving the burning world behind, Ren couldn't shake the feeling that he'd just altered the course of history, and that the small girl watching him with ancient eyes would someday change the fate of galaxies. A crown of starlight. 7 years passed like a fever dream. Commander Ren Kovac, now Captain Kovac of the independent vessel Wayward after his less than amicable separation from coalition forces, stood at the viewport of his ship, watching the glittering expanse of Nexus Station rotate slowly against the backdrop of stars. The scar tissue across his back pulled uncomfortably as he stretched. A permanent reminder of Helios 9, along with the nightmares that still occasionally jolted him awake. "Captain," called his first officer, Nika Voss, from the bridge doorway. "We've got a situation at the airlock." Ren sighed. "Define situation, Voss." "Armed escort." "Very fancy. Very insistent on speaking with you specifically." She leaned against the doorframe, her cybernetic eye whirring as it focused. "They're Astrian." Ren stiffened. In 7 years, he'd heard nothing from or about the girl he'd rescued. After delivering Lyra to Coalition headquarters, he'd been debriefed, commended, and ordered to forget the entire incident. When he'd attempted to follow up on her welfare 6 months later, all records of an Astrian refugee named Lyra Knoxvale had mysteriously vanished. His subsequent questions had earned him a transfer to Deep Space Patrol, effectively exiling him to the fringes of Coalition territory. 2 years after that, fed up with bureaucratic stonewalling, he'd resigned his commission and acquired the Wayward. "Did they give a reason?" he asked, already moving toward the airlock. "Only that it concerns matters of galactic security," Voss replied, falling into step beside him. "And something about a debt of honor." The airlock corridor seemed too small for the 4 towering Astrian guards who stood at rigid attention there. Their ceremonial armor gleamed with inlaid starlight crystal, and each wore a cape of material that seemed to capture and reflect the very cosmos itself. Between them stood a figure draped in a hooded cloak of the same impossible material. As Ren approached, the figure raised delicate hands and lowered the hood. "Hello, Commander Kovac," said Lyra Knoxvale, her voice melodious yet commanding. "It has been far too long." Ren stared. The frightened child had become a striking young woman. Her luminescent skin glowed with subtle power, and her eyes, still the color of nebulae, held both wisdom and weariness. Atop her silver-white hair sat a delicate crown that appeared to be crafted from captured starlight. "It's Captain now," he managed, finding his voice. "And I thought you'd forgotten about me, Your Majesty." The title was a guess, but from her appearance and entourage, it seemed appropriate. A smile touched her lips. "I never forgot. And yes, it's Your Majesty, in formal settings. But to you, I remain Lyra." She turned to her guards. "Leave us. Captain Kovac saved my life once. He will not harm me now." The guards looked uncomfortable but obeyed, retreating to positions farther down the corridor. "Your ship," Lyra said, glancing around appreciatively. "Freedom suits you." "Being lied to doesn't," Ren replied, more sharply than intended. "The Coalition told me you were placed with surviving Astrian refugees. Then they claimed you never existed." Lyra's expression darkened. "The Coalition transferred me to a special facility for gifted individuals. They wanted to study the Starlight Key." Her hand moved to the pendant still hanging from her neck. "They did not treat me unkindly, but they saw me as an asset, not a person. How did you get out? My people found me, she said simply. 3 years ago. The Astrian diaspora had been gathering, rebuilding in secret. When they discovered I lived, they came for me. She stepped closer, her presence somehow both comforting and intimidating. I fulfilled my destiny, Ren. I united our scattered people. I rebuilt our civilization on a new homeworld. I am queen of the Astrian Empire now. Ren whistled low. Impressive resume for someone so young. A flash of amusement crossed her face. I am older than I appear by human standards. What you would call 16 when we met is closer to 25 in my species development. Voss cleared her throat pointedly. Captain, perhaps we should continue this reunion somewhere more comfortable. Of course, Ren gestured toward the ship's common area. This way, Your Majesty. As they walked, Ren noted the grace with which Lyra moved, no trace of the injury that had once left her unable to walk. The common area was modest, a few comfortable chairs, a table, and a small galley, but Lyra settled into one of the chairs with the dignity of someone accustomed to thrones. You're wondering why I'm here, she said once they were seated. The thought had crossed my mind. Lyra's fingers traced the outline of her pendant. The Meridian Collective has resurfaced. More powerful than before. They've developed technology that can track the energy signature of the Starlight Key. The pendant, Ren confirmed. You never told me what it actually does. Because I didn't fully know myself, she admitted. The key is an ancient artifact, predating even Astrian civilization. It contains coordinates and access codes to what my people call the Nexus Forge, a facility created by a precursor race capable of manipulating the fundamental forces of reality. Voss let out a low whistle. That sounds dangerous, Ren finished. Exactly the kind of thing everyone would kill to possess. Lyra nodded grimly. The Meridian Collective destroyed my original homeworld searching for it. They attacked Helios 9 when they discovered my family had fled there with it. Now they've tracked me to New Astria. You need protection, Ren surmised. I need a thief, Lyra corrected. The Coalition has acquired a Meridian tracking device. I need someone to steal it, someone with both the skills and the knowledge of Coalition protocols. Ren leaned back, crossing his arms. That's a suicide mission. Perhaps, she agreed. But if the Meridian Collective finds the Nexus Forge first, they'll use it to reshape reality according to their vision, a universe where they control all resources, all power, all life. And what would the Astrians do with this power? Voss asked cautiously. Lyra's gaze was unwavering. Destroy it. Some knowledge is too dangerous for any civilization, no matter how enlightened they believe themselves to be. Silence fell over the common area. Ren studied Lyra's face, trying to reconcile the frightened child he'd carried through burning ruins with this regal, determined queen. Why me? He finally asked. You must have resources, agents better suited for infiltration. Because you saved me when you had every reason to leave me behind, Lyra answered simply. Because when I told you about the key, you chose to protect me rather than exploit me. Because I trust you, Ren Kovac, in a universe where trust is the rarest commodity of all. Ren stood and walked to the viewport, watching the stars drift by. The right answer was obvious, refuse. This wasn't his fight. The Wayward had cargo to deliver, contracts to fulfill. Yet something pulled at him, the memory of a small hand clutching his as they fled through destruction, the weight of a promise made years ago. If, and I mean if, I agree to this insanity, he said slowly, I want something in return. Name it, Lyra said without hesitation. Ren turned back to face her. The truth. All of it. No more half-answers or mysterious destinies. I want to know exactly what I'm getting into, and exactly what happened after I delivered you to the Coalition. Lyra's eyes seemed to deepen, galaxies swirling in their depths. That is a fair request. But the truth may be more difficult to bear than you imagine. Try me. She nodded, removing the pendant from around her neck. In her palm, the crystalline starburst pulsed with increasing intensity. The starlight key is not merely a map, she said softly. It's a key to unlocking potential within specific genetic sequences. My family line was engineered thousands of years ago to interface with precursor technology. When activated, the key transforms the bearer. As if responding to her words, the pendant floated from her palm, spinning slowly in the air between them. Light poured from it, enveloping Lyra in a cocoon of radiance. Ren stepped back, shielding his eyes. When the light faded, Lyra stood transformed. Her skin now contained what looked like captured starfields, cosmic energy coursing through visible channels beneath the surface. Her eyes had become pure light, and a corona of energy surrounded her head like a second, more ethereal crown. This is what the Coalition discovered when they studied me, Lyra said, her voice resonating strangely. This is why the Meridian Collective will never stop hunting me. Voss had drawn her sidearm reflexively, though she kept it pointed downward. What exactly are you? She whispered. The last of my kind, Lyra replied, the energy gradually receding as she regained her previous appearance. The final guardian of a power too great for any one species to wield. Ren's mind raced with implications. If the Coalition had experimented on her, tried to harness this power, if the Meridians were now closing in, the potential for catastrophic conflict was immense. Let me get this straight, he said, struggling to keep his voice steady. You want me to steal a tracking device from the Coalition, the same people who lied to me and experimented on you, to prevent the Meridian Collective from finding a weapon that could rewrite the fundamental laws of reality? Yes, Lyra confirmed, replacing the pendant around her neck. That summarizes the situation accurately. Ren ran a hand through his hair, laughing despite himself. Well, when you put it like that, how could I possibly refuse? You'll help. Hope flared in Lyra's eyes. On one condition, Ren said. We do this my way. No royal entourage, no flashy displays. Just you, me, my crew, and a plan that's just crazy enough it might work. Lyra extended her hand. Agreed. As their hands clasped, Ren couldn't shake the feeling that he was, once again, altering the course of history by standing beside this remarkable being. Only this time, he was doing it with eyes wide open. Voss, he called to his first officer, tell the crew to prepare for departure. And maybe brush up on your Coalition security protocols. Where are we headed, Captain? Voss asked. Ren looked at Lyra, her crown glittering in the starlight streaming through the viewport. Into the fire, he said. Again.